If you're a 90s or 2000s kid, you more likely than not had a childhood growing up on YouTube. If you've been to the platform recently, you've definitely seen that late night television like Saturday Night Live has become a huge recommendation push for all of the people on the platform, always showing up at people's homepages whenever new content releases. Late night TV and Saturday Night Live have been tied to YouTube for a really long time, and it helps draw in an audience that wouldn't necessarily be on the platform otherwise. So late night TV coming to YouTube is actually pretty good for its creators. Or is it?
You want to talk about stress? You want to talk about stress? Okay? I've stumbled onto a major company conspiracy, Mac. How about that for stress?
In order for us to better understand how late night TV and Saturday Night Live impact the content we watch on YouTube and the creators that we watch frequently, we really have to understand the history of late night TV and where all that comes from. The first true late night show to hit TV was The Ed Sullivan Show in 1948, which was inspired and preceded by radio shows like The Pepsodent Show hosted by Bob Hope. It was called The Pepsodent Show because Pepsodent toothpaste sponsored the show entirely for its 10-year run in order to avoid bankruptcy. The Tonight Show we know today was born with Steve Allen in 1954. The show's hosts would have successful but brief runs until Johnny Carson eventually took over the show in 1962.
We're terribly sorry. We know that the hour is very late, but it has come to our attention in our Chicago office that you, as we understand it, through our research staff, are going to sign another 3-year contract with NBC. Is that true, sir?
This is Johnny Carson.
Carson did 4,500 shows during his time as host. He wasn't as wild a personality as Jack Parr before him was, but he understood the show better than anyone else. Carson used his platform to give life to smaller comedians and is credited with helping start the early careers of comedians like Jerry Seinfeld. He shortened the monologue, made the show an hour instead of 90 minutes, and took the time to get to know each and every guest he was interviewing. When he left, there was an irreplaceable hole in late night. Carson was so successful that he had virtually no competition, and in order to expand his time with his family, he decided to take weekends off and only tape 3 shows a week. He could also have decided to take more time with his family because he was at the tail end of his 3rd marriage, but I'm not a relationship expert. NBC kind of panics because on the weekends, they host reruns of The Tonight Show, and since they're only doing 3 shows during the week, they have to move the Saturday-Sunday shows into Thursday-Friday. So now Saturday and Sunday have no programming at all. Dick Ebersol, who was the late-night VP at NBC, then has to fill the slot. He reached out to a bunch of people and eventually was put in contact with Lorne Michaels, and SNL is born. SNL is critically very highly received, and because of its celebrity guest spots, it becomes a huge conversation starter in an office environment, with friends, with family. It also becomes one of the most hit-or-miss shows in television, especially over the course of its almost 50-year run at this point. Now we have to understand YouTube a little bit better. So in 2005, 3 PayPal engineers set out to make a video-based dating app that would eventually shift into the video sharing platform YouTube. Originally housed home videos that families could share between one another because there wasn't really a market for creating digital content there, so YouTube kind of just made the process of sending video to family easier. You just upload it and send them a link instead of having to send it by carrier pigeon. At the same time, Saturday Night Live just hired Andy Samberg, Jorma Taccone, and Akiva Schaffer of The Lonely Island, who focus on shooting their digital shorts. So they go out and they shoot sketches instead of doing in-studio live production like the majority of the show actually took place at. In December of that year, the comedy trio sketch Lazy Sunday, a hard rap about cupcakes, is shared through the platform and instantly skyrockets YouTube's traffic by 83%. This was happening on a much smaller scale with other shows from other networks, but this prompted NBC to sue YouTube for copyright infringement. On this and 500 more clips, and the video was eventually taken down. It is worth noting that the Lonely Island guys did not really care at all, and were really just happy that someone cared about their content at all. It was YouTube's most viewed video at the time. It was incredibly popular, and they were just happy that people were watching it. It was fun, it was different, it was funny. It's part of the reason why I love them so much, so I understand why they wouldn't really care. Still, people wanted to flock to YouTube more frequently, and NBC saw an opportunity. So they signed a digital exclusivity deal for releases with YouTube, which they terminated a year later to work on this other website called Hulu.com. Can't see this one working out. Sorry, guys. Viacom CBS also sued for $1 billion in damages, but eventually stopped pursuing when YouTube implemented their Content ID system. It's ultimately YouTube's most controversial move in years. Content ID has affected creators of all kinds because it almost entirely disregards fair use laws. So, through the Content ID system, companies like Viacom are simply given the ability to take down any content that includes video or audio from their productions, even if it doesn't fall under their legal right to do so. So long as you are making a video that is making commentary or expressing something about a piece of media, you are allowed to include clips of that so that people have a visual sense of what you're talking about. It's part of the fair use law, but that doesn't stop companies like Viacom from taking it down because they view it as people making money off of something they made. Creators can appeal those claims, but the appeal does not go to YouTube, but rather to the company that claimed the video in the first place. And on top of that, too many appeals being denied can lead to a channel's termination. Really, I'm taking a huge risk telling you all this, so you're welcome and subscribe. A lot of creators have had really open bouts with Content ID. One great example is Philip DeFranco, who's been around since the beginning of YouTube. It's happened to just about every commentary YouTuber. You could cite Danny Gonzalez, Drew Gooden, Eddy Burback. All of them frequently use clips that require them to upload and make commentary on, but those companies take advantage of that. But most famously is most likely H3's Ethan Klein. He's had the most open bouts with Content ID and the fair use system.
You know, right now we're in mediation, or not mediation, we're in settlement talks right now to see if we can work it out. And we're exploring our options. But, you know, at the end of the day, I do think it's important to be very clear that this is a fair use lawsuit. They are attacking our right to cover their footage. It's Matt Haas 2.0, except we're up against deep pockets, and they're way scarier than Matt Haas. Mm-hmm. So, like, don't get it twisted, right? This is literally a fair use lawsuit, and they say it in their complaint, in their lawsuit. They say their damages is that I rebroadcasted their fight to 1 million people, and that's why they're suing us for $50 million. That's a fair use argument. That is every person that viewed our podcast. They're saying you do not have the right to critique and criticize our footage.
Yeah, I feel like they're using the terms incorrectly, because rebroadcasting, isn't that more about people who actually just like pirate the whole thing and then like the people who actually claim it for people?
Yeah, that's what originally that's what it was. But now it's copyright infringement. That's the technical thing, right? They're suing us for. But it's also like this propaganda where they're trying to make it seem like, oh, it's not a fair use thing. The guy stole our fight.
H3's experience does not only show how it can be misused in a simple lawful capacity, but how Content ID can be used against creators maliciously, with people like Ryan Kavanaugh, who he's currently in a lawsuit with, taking the opportunity to misuse Content ID and get episodes of his show taken down because he showed 45 seconds of a fight. Another example of Content ID that just drives me crazy is Nakey Jakey having an hour-long video demonetized for a 4-second clip of George Michael's Careless Whisper, as if I'll watch the video and go, well, why would I listen to Careless Whisper anymore? I have the whole thing right here. Well, how does this all work together? TV becomes more antiquated every year, but that conversation still exists because of YouTube. And now, at an even larger scale, where sharing has become increasingly easy. Other late-night creators, specifically Conan, took YouTube very seriously. Aside from the specific creators I follow on YouTube, Conan O'Brien is one of my favorite YouTube channels. And honestly, I wouldn't know about him if it wouldn't have been for YouTube. Had it not been his remotes, he'd just be the really tall guy with the hair.
Sack of potatoes over the shoulder, sure.
Why potatoes? Because I'm Irish?
Just it's a common phrase, potatoes.
Yeah, Irish guy, just a bunch of potatoes, right? Oh, the Irishman, just some taters. Sack of taters is the Irishman. Is that all I am to you?
No.
Okay.
I mean, it could be a sack of anything.
Sack of shit, maybe?
Sure.
Really?
I mean, shit is something, so yeah.
What? You just called me a sack of shit to my face. What's your problem? What's wrong with you?
In 2013, SNL started an official YouTube account and upload to it regularly after their episodes air. Still, it's incredibly predatory that these mega corporations are taking advantage of a small digital platform and then taking away the ability from small creators to create and do things that they want to be doing with ultimately something that's totally legally in their right to do so. So ultimately, when you look at it, late night did give life to YouTube. YouTube probably would not have succeeded if it wasn't for the Lazy Sunday sketch that bolstered YouTube's traffic. It might not succeed if it's not for deals that were made that allowed YouTube to continue to have content like that for at least an extra year while it got its footing. But I don't think that makes it okay for the things that happen to creators now to happen. And I think that it does have a large role in the eventual establishment of Content ID. And so, for better or worse, YouTube is shaped by late night television.